We're going to start out by choosing our weights. My rule of thumb is to run 2 ounces of weight less in the rear and 2 ounce heavier in the front. So 2 ounce difference between front and back. All right, so now we're going to sort through these. The way that I have my, this is a shorter one. I've been going to the longer bottom bouncers lately. Here in Lake Erie, and lately with the way the walleye population is, they're on drop-offs and located for bottom bouncing, that is, not for dipsies or planer boards and whatnot. But I make quick circles, so if I have heavier weight straight under the boat, I can make faster turns without messing up my lines. So we're gonna pick these and get started. All right, my assistant Joe here is walking us through everything today. This is gonna be a full teaching video as I demonstrate to you. Joe will be learning and so will everybody, something like that. All right, so on my rigs I have a 3-way swivel. These are from Thunder Mist. They are ball bearing 3-way swivels. They are incredible, they work great. So that is where we're going to attach our weights, and again, 2 ounce difference between the front and the back. Down a little ways we've got a swivel and a snap. That is where I attach my worm harness and then down to my harness. So we're going to take our bottom bouncer that's got a snap swivel on it, put it onto that third part of that 3-way right there, close it up, and now one rod is ready to go, and that is my lighter Akuma setup right here. So I run the lighter rods in the back and the heavier rods in the front that match the weights. All right, so now putting crawlers on the harness. I'm pretty fussy about that because we want to make sure that that worm keels properly. I keep my crawlers in water. It already melted with ice on it. Keep them clean and ready to go. So we take that front hook, in other words, the hook that is closest to the beads and the blade, we put that first hook through the very tip. Okay, we take the second one and we put it back behind the collar a little ways, and it keeps it on the harness straight. When we're letting them out, putting them in the rod holders before we're ready to drop, we make sure that we put the weight in the water. Never have that weight out of the water, because when you come by, boat weight comes by, that thing will bounce so hard it'll either break your rod or it'll swing in the boat and take your head off. So we want to make sure that we just let out a little bit, lock her down, put it in the rod holder until we're ready to move. Don't start letting line out until the boat is moving forward. All right, we're getting one of the heavier front ones. It's going to hold the 8 ounces, getting that ready. And people say to me, what is the best color blade and beads to use? And I say the one that catches fish or the one you got confidence in. I use a lot of willow leaves that are orange for some reason, probably related to perch. And then my other choice are Colorado perch color blades. So this heavier front rod is an 8'6". We're going to put the 8 ounce sinker on there. And once we get them all ready to go, we're going to kick our trolling motor in and we're going to start bottom bouncing. And these bottom bouncers are ones I make myself. So I have a mold. You can see the mold on the screen here. I pour it onto TIG rod, just about 3 foot long, a little bit shorter because I knurl the end. Because why do you knurl the end of a bottom bouncer? It's because just in case you hang it over a seat and you drop it, it goes through your seat. Ooh, maybe I did that before. There we go. All right, now they're hooking up our crawler. Once again, tip through the first hook, and then we grab the back one. And the purpose for that is we want our worms to be on there as straight as possible, is because we've got something that's twisting. The spinner blade wants to twist, wants to tangle your line really bad. That's why, and I'm anti-swivel guy, but you gotta have those swivels in line or you're gonna have a mess, and you wanna have that crawler on that harness as straight as possible. And here's the Colorado perch blade I use. I use the willows, and I use this Colorado perch blade that I get from Jan's Netcraft in Toledo, Ohio. All right, so once again, attaching our snap swivel. And why do I Use a snap swivel for somebody who hates snap swivels, because that weight will tend to spin on the bottom while it's bouncing, because the object of bottom bouncing is to bounce it on the bottom. So lock that guy in place and bait her up, and we're almost ready to start fishing. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kick my trolling motor into gear, and I want to get up to 1.5 miles an hour. Seems to be the magic number here. So we're gonna look at our speed. There we go. 5/10, 6/10, 7, 8, 9. 1.5 seems to be just the right speed for bottom bouncing. We're at 1.5, 1.6. I'm going to slow her down a little bit. I got my remote in my hand here. All right, we're getting ready to let them out. One thing that's really important is make sure your harness is out behind the weight. That is super important. Now Joe's going to hit our release and slowly let it out. One thing you want to do is make sure you go real slow, slower than that. Yep. Because what'll happen if you let them out too fast, what'll happen is that harness will run up the line and you will have a mess when you bring it up. I want to see that rod tip jerking like that, because that means they're letting him out at just the right speed. See his thumb? He's just thumbing it out. And once he gets it out, we're going to lock it down, get all our rods set up, and then we're going to let them out again to retouch our bottom, because our bottom changes constantly where we are. So once he gets to the bottom, be able to tell. We're going to watch the rod tip, and the rod tip will suddenly go straight, and he's on the bottom now, I can tell. Okay, so lock her up, turn the handles and lock her up. All right, we're going to stick that one in the rod holder and let the other one out as well. So my system of doing it is to let out the back ones, which are 2 ounces lighter than the front ones, and then we let out the front ones. Now these are line counter reels, but we're not really concerned about the count on the line counter, because we're concerned about being on bottom. So if we're in a consistent area, say we're fishing in 50 feet of water, and we know if we let out 80 feet of line, we can do that consistently. But the area that I'm fishing today, the depths are changing all over the place. So he's letting it out slow and easy. Once it hits the bottom, that rod tip will kind of go slack. There it is, it's slack. Lock her down, and we'll stick it in the rod holder. And now we've got 2 back ones out. 6 ounces in the back, we're running 8 ounces in the front. All right, now we're gonna put our 2 8-ouncers out. Once again, we're gonna make sure that that worm harness is following behind the 3-way swivel, and if done properly and not let out too much line on the front ones, we will not tangle our back ones at all. And the back rods I have angled in a little bit, so they're a little bit closer to center line, and the front rods will be sticking out to the side a little bit more. The only time I ever have any problem with this is when my customers let out too much line in the front and it catches the back. So this is more critical here. We're gonna let it out. You can see the rod tips bouncing there. He's slowly letting her out. And let's see. If you do it enough, you get to feel where it actually hits the bottom. All right, there he goes. He hit the bottom. All right, so now he's going to lock that in, get that in the other rod holder, and we should be close to catching something here. So I just made a drastic move from 55 into 42, and our bottom bouncers are digging in. What do? Well, the most prudent thing to do is to crank them up a little bit. But if you are alone or you suddenly find yourself in a situation, speed up. Speed up, get them up off the bottom, and then make your adjustments and then slow down again. That's the way I usually recover. After you've let them out, say you're digging a little bit too much, take the time to bring them up and check them. Check your bait, check your just your gear in general to make sure you don't have not only want to make sure you have bait on it, but you might have a goby or a silver bass or something small on there that just messes it up, and you don't realize, yeah, that got cleaned, so we got picked. So we're gonna put on on our other gear. And we've got, no, you know what we've got? Look at it, we've got somebody else's line hooked up here. We caught somebody else's stuff. Look at the zebra mussels are coming back in there. We gotta bring that up and clean it off. If you're from watching from someplace that's not around here and you don't know what zebra mussels look like, there's a glob of zebra mussels. That was killer and savior of the Great Lakes. All right, now we're letting that line back out after we've cleared it. These back ones, we want to let them down right next to the motor, as close to that motor as you can, and then you won't catch this outside rod, and you'll put them right into sequence again. 2 drops, 2 clumps of line, another one. People are losing a lot of stuff around here lately. All right, so we just had a little bump on one of the front rods. When we let that one out, we let it out slow and easy so that that difference between that 8-ounce weight in front doesn't interfere with the 6 ounces in back. And done right, you will not have a problem all day long. Just keep it in that sequence. 4 rods out, beautiful. Let's see if this is something worth. Will he measure? I think he's gonna make 15. Joe feels better now. The action of a bottom bouncing rod is very important. These are what I call a slow taper. They bend all the way from the butt to the tip because I'm using braided line on these Okuma cold water reels. I need to have that rod take up the shock that isn't afforded me on the braided line. If you use a monofilament, it's not as critical. But I use braid, so you gotta always make sure that you got plenty of bend in that rod, which allows the fish to hit it and not to break off or to pull off. That's generally what happens. They pull free because of that mouth a walleye has. So make sure you've got the right rod for your bottom bouncing. So whether you're fishing on a deep body of water like Lake Erie, where you're going to use heavier weights, the ones we're using today, I have 6 ounces in the back and 8 ounces in the front, is because of the depth. Well, if you're fishing on a shallower lake and bottom bouncing, you don't need that heavier weight, but you still need to change the front from the back at least 2 ounces different, at least 2 ounces. Because when you're letting those back ones out, they're way far behind the boat. And when you're letting the front ones out with the 2 ounce difference, 2 ounce heavier, they're not gonna connect with those back ones unless you let out too much line. All right, slow, steady crank is really important. We never set the hook when we're bottom bouncing for walleye because that'll definitely pull it out of them. So let's see what we got here. See if he's gonna need the net, because if it's a big one, he's gonna be screaming. Watch this. Watch this, folks. Let's see what happens here. And it's a walleye. Is he gonna lift him right in? But lift him in with just the rod. Don't even grab the line because you got a little more flex that way. There you go. Beautiful. It's working. It's about a 15, 16 incher. They have to be 15 inches here in New York to keep.
15 and a quarter.
15 and a quarter. Oh, I was off by an inch and a half. Little crank, and here we got a pod right on a drop off. And the nice part about what we're doing, once again, is with the 2 ounce difference between the front and the back and heavy weights, even if we're only in like 48 feet of water, is that I can make quick, tight turns. And Joe needs to get a net.
Longer arms.
Longer arms. 15. Those are the better eaters, and I like them better because they don't wreck my knife. Slowed down a little bit on a turn.
That was it. I think it was when you turned, I saw the rod go. But it bumped bottom a couple times.
Yep, there's Walter.
Oh, yeah.
Reaching down. Getting him in the net. It's in the net. These new cold water reels are incredible. They got a great big handle on them, and which gives you plenty of power, line counter if you're needing it, and a drag system that is like second to none. This has been beautiful because this has been a summer for a lot of big walleye. We're not catching the big ones today, but they're really pulling that drag out. Bottom bouncing is very effective, folks. And again, there's another walltail coming up from the bottom there. Looks like a little bit bigger one. He might need he's gonna need the net this time. And the net is in the front of the boat. Let's see how he does it. All right. There we go. He's got the net in one hand. a long leader. Let's see how he does it. Let's see how he does it. Where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. Let's see. Come on, Joe. You can do it. You can do it. Yay!
Oh,
I love it. I love it.